Lives are changed at Alliance Health Project. Our lives and the lives of our clients. Whether you come for HIV services, sexual health, mental health, substance use, or gender care, you leave here a little stronger, a little more known and seen. And that is healing. Why do people come to AHP? They know we are committed to the highest standard of care, with a heightened sense for race, gender, and sexuality. How that interplay affects our clients affects all of us. They come because they connect with our staff, who treat them with respect, dignity, and compassion. And that is healing. Alliance Health Project, making the world a better place, one person at a time.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the final art talk for Art for AIDS. I'm so excited that you're all here. I'm so excited about the talk tonight. I want to say thank you to I'm DK Haas, by the way. I'm your chief cheerleader, Art for AIDS cheerleader, and have been knowing some of these artists and jurors for a very long time, and so appreciate you being here. And I want to welcome all the panelists and all of the attendees. We've had a crazy year, haven't we? And yet still, with everything that's happened, all the pandemic and all the uncertainty and all the artists losing their livelihoods and shows and studios, you have still managed to donate over 200 pieces of art to this auction. So thank you. Thank you all so much. In many cases, multiple pieces from individual artists. So we couldn't do it without you, and we're so appreciative. And to our jurors who learned sometimes, in some cases, did Zoom for the first time while jurying Art for AIDS pieces. And we spent many hours on those jury sessions. So thank you all so much for creating a beautiful show. I keep getting notices, oh my God, this art is amazing. So that is also partly to do with the jury who carefully curate every piece. We've reached the $100,000 mark in sponsors. So I want to thank our sponsors. This is amazing. And also everyone who's bidding and buying. There's art being bid on right now. And it's just super exciting out there on the auction site. I want to say Art for AIDS 2020 is, it's been kind of a journey, right? In some ways, it's been like what we ask our clients to do who are in our care. Trust the process, pivot, put one foot in front of the next. And at the end of the day, just keep moving one day at a time. Artists play such a critical role in documenting and expressing our times. And I know you're all working, recording, whether it's, the fires or racial disparity or some of the other injustices that are happening in our world. And even if what you're painting has nothing to do with any of that, you're still recording and documenting this very particular time. And it's such a crucial role in our society. Tonight, we're gonna have some fun. Saturday night, we're gonna have some fun. Tonight's program, we have Adam Forfang, Mark Howard, Anna Sedana, Maxine Solomon, Holly Wong, and our jurors, James Bocci and Cindy Farner. The way this is going to go is the jurors are going to introduce the artist, and then we're going to move into a panel discussion. We have a Q&A, which you can use. It's down at the bottom of your screen. And I will interject occasionally with questions from the audience. So let's also, like I said, the online auction is happening. The live auction will be Saturday night. Tune in a little early. It starts at 7. We're going to open the live pieces early, actually midnight on Saturday morning. I guess that's Friday morning, tonight at midnight or 12:01, we're going to open the live auction so that the people can start bidding on those live auction pieces. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Farner, who's going to introduce some artists.
Hi, I'm Cindy Farner. I'm an art collector and one of the jurors. And I am going to introduce the first three artists. Adam Forfang is a Bay Area artist who works primarily in oil paint. He uses compressed digital photos as reference to create images that ride the line between realism and abstraction. His work can be found at Studio Gallery in San Francisco, Netsulas Gallery in Davis, and Elliott Foods Gallery in Sacramento. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your art, Adam?
I'd love to. And first off, thanks to Art for AIDS and DK for having me. And I think a lot about the fact that we're living in a digital age or an information age. And I try to record that. And the fact that we're speaking now through Zoom digitally emphasizes the point that digital influence is part of our life. And I studied classical painting and photorealism first and came upon my style sort of accidentally working in Photoshop, where I was processing photo reference and accidentally compressed an image and really liked the effect and found very interesting, a very interesting jumping off point for a new body of work. And I've been pursuing that since, mostly in still life. And the other aspect of the work is that I'm influenced by Chuck Close and artists who take photorealism to a different direction and again, bring it into more of a digital sort of influence.
Great. So thanks, Adam. We'll be talking to you more later. Next is Anna Sedana, and she's a full-time visual artist and art leader who uses the symbolism of cotton and pomegranates to address race and femininity. Realizing and cherishing the transformative benefits of art, she came to the arts late in life after an intense career in technology. She is recently shown at the Marin Museum of Contemporary Art and is currently participating in the De Young Open. Go ahead, Anna. Can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. My name is Anna Sedana, and as Cindy mentioned, I came to the arts very late in life, actually. You know, after a 30-plus career in high tech, I realized that I wanted to do something more tactical, something more tangible and more humanitarian in some ways. And I found that art was my calling, except that when I started painting about 5 years ago, I was still playing very much in the decorative space, if you will. And I wanted to take my practice deeper. So I went back to school, I got my master's in fine art and discovered symbolism and a sort of atmospheric landscape, if you will. So with cotton, the piece that's there for Art for AIDS, I actually stumbled upon cotton as I was trying to connect with my own childhood and my culture, and had memories of playing in cotton fields, sort of happy memories. And then as I made my way across the world from India to England to the US, I learned about the dark side, if you will, of cotton and the history of cotton. And so I have a play on that in some of my works where I explore racial issues, I explore social issues, and I'm, you know, just at the beginning, if you will, of that stage where I'm interested in taking my practice deeper with with cotton. And then pomegranates, of course, is to address, oh, something is going on here. Sorry about that. Yeah, and with pomegranates, it's more about femininity and womanhood and issues that are hidden and still hidden in societies all over the world that I would rather bring to the forefront and celebrate instead of, you know, the issues that women face. So that's where I am at the moment. So, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Anna. That was very enlightening. So next, I'm going to introduce Holly Wong. She creates installations, paintings, and assemblages, and has an MFA in new genres from the San Francisco Art Institute. She is represented by Slate Contemporary Gallery in Oakland and is a member of the AIR Gallery in Brooklyn, New York. She is a participating artist in the DeYoung Museum Open, which is now on exhibit through January 30th, 2021. Holly, do you want to tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure. So I thought that it might be best if I talked about my work in the context of pictures. So I'm just going to put together, I have a quick deck here, and I will just bring this up. So this is Calypso, which is available through Art for AIDS auction, and I hope that folks will feel like bidding on it. This draws the spirit of the goddess and is fundamental to the theme in much of my work. I will just go through quickly some of the things I've been up to. This is a large installation, about 12 feet across. It's colored pencil on drafting film. It's called Spiral Dance. It is a neo-paganistic tribute to drawing down the moon. This series, there's two of these. This is Bia 1 and Bia 2. This is the one that's in the DeYoung, and this is colored pencil on drafting film. These are woven assemblages. Bia was a goddess of power, and so much of my work is very much about reclaiming feminine power in myself. This is me working on one of my largest installations to date, which is about 18 feet across. It's called She, and it's colored pencil and graphite on hand-cut drafting film. There are cutouts and cutaways to show that we have many layers within ourselves. This is me working on some wall-based assemblages. This is called Arachne, which I consider to be the realm of the feminine and the fact that we must go to the depths to find ourselves and come back. This is a series called Persephone, and these are assemblages on paper. My tradition is to burn the paper with candle smoke because it's about creation and bringing back life from the dead. And so that is really at the heart of what I've been up to. Calypso was a very important seminal piece for me. And I just made sure I had a timer there so I wouldn't run over. But anyways, yeah, Calypso was a really important seminal piece for me in terms of feminine spirituality. And that is at the heart of where my work comes from. So thank you.
Thank you, Holly. So I'm going to pass it over to James, James Bacci, who is a gallery owner of Art House and also an artist himself. So James, do you want to go ahead and introduce our two artists?
Yes. First, I'd love to say welcome everyone and how great it is to be here tonight, co-hosting with DK Haas and Cindy Farner. We've had the pleasure of jurying art parades this year, and all of you are no strangers to donating. So we're thrilled that you're all here again this year for Art Parades 2020. We're smack in the middle. I'd like to start out by introducing Maxine Solomon, who is an accomplished Bay Area artist who I have the pleasure of representing with Annette Shoots at Art House. Maxine has been painting and exhibiting for the past 25 years. Her show opened last week at Art House. It's called Brushstrokes. You should see it. And Maxine is going to tell us about her work.
Maxine?
Maxine, you're on mute.
Oh, I mean, I have to say that.
Welcome.
That's better.
I want to first of all thank you all for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be doing something again in the San Francisco community, which I so desperately miss since I moved to Davis. But I do consider myself one of the lucky ones because in this chaotic time, I can still seek refuge in my studio. And there I can find joy and excitement. I can approach my easel and step up to it and create my own world. And then I have the added advantage of being able to share that world with anybody who chooses to view it. As James said, some of the new paintings just created are on view there now, and hopefully more to come before the show is over. The one thing I want to mention, each time I start a new painting, it's like I'm learning to paint all over again. But this unease at first creates an exploration and a discovery that that causes life to seep into each painting in its own unique way. And as one of my art heroes says, Richard Diebenkorn, is I can never accomplish what I want, only what I would have wanted had I thought of it in the first place. And that's kind of the way my paintings develop. My process is additive and subtractive, so that I paint, scrape, and then paint some more, and in that way build up all the layers until the painting stops nagging me. Because after all, as all of you painters know, it's the painting that's actually in charge. And we have to just, as difficult as it is, step aside and let it do its thing. So that's a little bit about my process, and that's about all I can think of to say at this particular time.
Thank you.
Again.
Now I'd like to introduce San Francisco artist Mark Powers. Mark is the poster child for Art for AIDS this year. His image, opening night on Townsend Street, is the kind of Art for AIDS banner image this year. Mark is self-taught and has worked in a variety of mediums, from assemblage to works on paper to conceptual art. And most recently, he has, as we can see, turned to semi-realistic painting, focusing on cityscapes, mainly at night. And his current show at ARC 4 Squared was received with pretty amazing response. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Powers.
Thank you, James. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. And thank you for joining us tonight, everybody who's tuning in. I'm really excited to have my piece included in this year's Art for AIDS live auction. I've been donating pieces for a number of years to Art for AIDS, and this is the first time I have a piece in the live auction, so it's pretty exciting for me. And I'm wonderfully excited and happy to do anything in support of Alliance Health Project's missions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So for the past 13 years or so, I've been living in San Francisco and working in San Francisco as an artist. I think the city's fantastic, the people, the architecture, the history, really everything about it. It's easy to say that right now it's my biggest artistic inspiration, especially as I'm leaning much more toward realism than I have in the past. I just love the city. There's not much more I can say about it than that. I spent a good part of last year photographing nighttime gallery openings, which James mentioned earlier. And it manifested in this series of 16 gallery nocturne paintings, very similar to the one that is in this year's live auction. I'm still documenting the city currently, and especially at night, and I'm trying to capture the city as it sort of reawakens from this reality that we have been in. And I'm documenting things and photographing things like barbershops at night, ice cream parlors, people dining outside, closed dive bars that don't have any people, that are just sort of shut down. So kind of fun stuff. And the city's changing. You know, there's this feeling in the air that it's becoming something new and something different. So I'm really excited to capture that and attempt to convey that feeling while that feeling is still a feeling, if you know what I mean there. As San Francisco reemerges, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a little bit of negativity in the air. And I think as an artist, one of my functions and things I've taken upon myself is to try to be a little more positive and be more of a champion for the city. So Cynthia mentioned earlier that I do a little bit of street art. One of the things that I do is I carve, just as one example, I carve traffic cones, construction cones. I carve little pumpkin faces in them and things like that and leave them around the city. Do a whole bunch of other things along those lines as well. But the idea is really just to put a smile on people's faces, keep the city a little quirky and fun, and just make things a little bit better, rather than focusing on too much of the other stuff that's really easy to focus on. So in addition to my more serious, I have some more serious artistic efforts in addition to all these fun things that I do, painting, assemblage, sculpture. And one of the things I'm focused on right now, more than anything, are the nighttime paintings. And I'll be doing a lot more of that in the future. I have a series coming up of more nighttime nocturne images. One of the approaches I'll be taking is, in which I did with my last series, is taking daytime photos and turning them into nighttime paintings, which is a bit more challenging than simply painting a nighttime photo. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm also going to be working more in caustics and doing larger pieces. And I'm exploring some residencies in the future. So I'm kind of excited about that. So that's about it for now. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Mark.
So to the artists, do any of you feel like you're really going to be making a change in the direction of your practices? Adam talked a little bit about, you know, where he's looking to go over the next period of time. Anyone else have thoughts on that?
For me, I'm starting a new series of works that I'm doing some large smoke paintings on paper that are going to be about 4 by 5. A lot of what I've been doing is using the organic shapes, as you see behind me. But lately I've been really interested in interlinking squares and rectangles as a metaphor for disintegration and rebuilding. I'm having a solo show at Slate in March of 2021, and I'll be presenting several large works on paper, as well as a site-specific installation that's going to work with their skylight. So a lot of it is about what ways in which ourselves disintegrate and how it is that the artistic process provides wholeness. And so I use a sort of undulating sort of squares and rectangles, almost like weaving. The contemporary weavers, of course, the great Annie Albers, these are all people that have influenced my drawing and painting, as well as my installation work.
Thank you, Holly. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add about their work?
You know, I used to paint San Francisco in its many neighborhoods before I went back to school and started painting cotton and pomegranates. And I still have a desire to paint more of San Francisco, to highlight some of the very distinctive neighborhoods. There are friends of mine who want me to paint Castro, for example, and downtown, Haight Street, North Beach. So at some point I will go back and do a lot more of that as well. So.
Just to remind folks in the audience, we are going to a panel discussion now, so people feel free to jump in, make it conversational, and before you do, we do have one question right now from the audience members, which is, do you envision your art practice evolving in the digital environment?
Well, I can answer that for myself, and absolutely not. I don't enjoy the digital process. I find it takes me away from that easel and the addiction to smelly, messy oil paint. So
I'm right there with you, Maxine.
Pardon? Oh,
I'm
good.
right there with you.
Yeah, I'll leave the digital to other people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I left the digital world behind in some ways to you know, get my hands dirty, and I'm loving that whole oil paint thing. So
I also love the tactility of oil paint, and make it a point to only do one-of-a-kind hand-painted pieces, nothing digital, although I use digital information. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy that I'm working with.
So I have a question for everyone. Many of you have seemed to work in a variety of mediums over the years, but here we are tonight, and the talk is all about painting. Is painting your first and last love?
Well, for me, it's my biggest love.
It's definitely, for me, a new love. I've only been doing painting probably for the last couple of years, I would say. So for me, it's pretty exciting and still very fresh and very new. So everything is both frustrating and exciting at the same time.
New love is great.
Yeah.
I would say that I am always generally working in multiple worlds at the same time. The installation I'm planning for March will involve the drawing on drafting film, as well as then sewing it, because fiber is an important part of my work. And I will be cutting squares of dichroic film and then juxtaposing the drawn squares and then working with those transparencies. So for me, I'm always living in multiple mediums at the same time. I started out as drawing, as many of us do, but I've always integrated certain aspects of performance in my work. I feel like my work is a metaphor for the body, and for that to make sense, it has to occupy physical space in a large way.
yeah, I came to the arts very late in life, and you know, I did paint as a child, so I was introduced to oils at that time, and I came back to oils. But I'm also attracted to fabric. I feel like fabric, and this is again the whole cotton thing playing in there as well. But I feel like fabric has so many stories to tell, and so at some point I will weave that into my work somehow. But I haven't figured out how yet.
Well, question for Mark, where does your interest in night scenes come from?
It's a good question. The painting that's in this year's live auction, I just happened to be at that opening, which is at James's gallery, and I took that shot. And as soon as I took the shot, I knew I wanted to paint it. And I'm not really a painter, and certainly wasn't 2 years ago when I took that shot. So it sort of inspired me to become a painter in some ways. And honestly, I was invited because of that piece into another show at Arc Gallery, and was encouraged to do 16 nighttime paintings, which I took on that challenge. And the process of doing that, I just became a little night creature and was out and about in the city, which was important for me as somebody who lives in the city. So pretty fun.
Well, I'm looking for any volunteer who'll do my digital stuff for me.
So Mark, having seen all of your variations at the art gallery, there really is something that's intriguing and kind of pulls you in that I don't think would have the same impact if it were a daytime shot.
Thank you. Yeah, I do like, I mean, they're literally windows into another world. And I think there's something about that that really pulls me in as well and attracts me
Yeah.
to it.
There's a little bit of Hopper going on there.
Yeah.
Edward Hopper. Yeah.
Yeah, and the piece, in case folks don't know, or if you haven't seen it, is Art House Gallery, and it is the grand opening of Art House Gallery, which is where James is right at this very moment, right? Or are you at?
I'm home.
You're at home, okay. Might have been had we not been doing this. The grand opening of the new gallery on Townsend, and in some ways the nostalgia of that, you know, that we're not having those openings in that way right at this moment, and it imbibes a very rich memory for me.
And thanks. Yeah, who knew they'd be that timely when I painted. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe we'll get to do them again sometime.
Soon, hopefully.
So what fun.
Anna, one question is, how has San Francisco influenced your work, if at all?
Boy, you know, San Francisco is such an inspiring city, and I've lived here now for almost 30 years. And I wake up every morning and go to Crissy Fields for a walk, and I just love it. Every single day I go there, and I'm so grateful to be in this city. Not just its physical, geological beauty, but I think what really makes the city is the people and the culture. And San Francisco is unparalleled when it comes to inclusivity, diversity, just the feeling of being able to do anything. You know, people were open to my own transformation into the art world. You know, Art for AIDS. I've been a part of this organization now for a few years. DK, you know my journey much more closely. It's just a very inspiring city. There's just a lot of capital here, human capital, with on the intellectual side, the arts, the culture, just so many wonderful things about it. So.
So here's another question. If everything that's going on right now was all of a sudden behind you, what would be the first thing you would paint?
I think
Wow.
Well, everyone.
I just think it would be a painting that just yelled joy. We did it. We lived through it.
Yeah, it would have to be some expression of joy.
Maybe a big blue sky with clean air that we can breathe
Yes.
without a mask.
Or a big crowd of people, just a big close-knit crowd of people.
A group hug.
Yeah.
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 I think I would try to do something site-specific outdoors, that, you know, more of an environment, because right now everything kind of has to be indoors. So there is a way in which I've been thinking about working with laser cut aluminum and maybe powder coating it. So I'm really interested in the whole notion of how metal can be almost like very light and tenuous. So I think I would want to do something like that.
I might do some plein air, you know, just to take it all in. And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Adam, one of your collectors has chimed in to say they're a fan and they love nerdiness in your work. And I noticed in your
Thank you.
website you have some of the digital, this you know, it's sort of like you're creating this pixelated painting. Do you pixelate? Do you start with a traditional still life and then pixelate it, or do you just paint a pixelated something?
I usually take a photo first and then run it through Photoshop as a JPEG compression. And a lot of the photos we use on our phones or through emails, they're usually JPEG photos. And it's a very specific language that the image uses. It's a little bit different than pixelation, where pixelation is like a flat tile grid.
Mm.
JPEG is some areas are flat and some areas are three-dimensional. So I can play with the level of compression to play with the abstraction until I find a level that I like, and then use that as a starting point, and then kind of put my own spin on it too.
Thank
But
you.
I'm really interested in the idea of language and how painting is a language that has evolved over time and continues to evolve.
Thank you. James and Cindy, just jump in. There's been a lot of questions from the audience. So
Yeah, I would go ahead and answer those.
Well, you know, and it's funny, one of them is to you, Maxine. It says, I heard a rumor that you were a rock star professional trick water skier. Does that flashy athletic past inform your work? I just had to share that question.
I think it has, DK, because my work is very physical. Some of my canvases are bigger than me, and I do tend to throw them around, drop them on the floor, do all sorts of things until the canvas is pretty well tortured. But who's been tattling on me, DK?
You probably could figure that out.
Is it you?
No. I want to ask also, you know, we're trying to keep these to a half hour. We can't keep them to a half hour because it's so very fascinating. There's a lot of questions about what did you do previously, Mark? And there's a part of me that in your introduction, I wanted James to say, or, you know, from street glass skulls to mandala drawings to city drawings to like, what haven't you done? I guess that's really the question.
That's a good question. I was just thinking, like, what could I do if I really just wanted to do anything? And I've done a fair amount of etching in stone. And one of the things I want to do is I want to etch the side of a big marble building, you know, with laser etching tools and stuff. But yeah, I think I've donated to Art for AIDS a drawing, a painting, an assemblage, a sculpture, now a couple of paintings. So yeah.
A couple eggs, maybe. There was a year.
A couple of etched stone eggs, correct? Yeah. And most of that's just because I come across the materials, and I think I'm driven by a curiosity in the materials. The car glass that comes from smashed car, you know, burglared cars on the side of the street, I clean that up and use it. And just because it's there and it's free. Same with the orange cones. They're everywhere, especially right now in the city. And now, of course, there's a name for it, but I see them everywhere. I see cones. Oh, a cone, a cone, a cone. I'm sort of obsessed with it. So it's, the materials are out there, and sort of what can you do with them?
Yeah. So maybe I think materials is interesting. You know, how do materials, I mean, you know, how do materials sort of drive your inspiration, or vice versa?
Right, right. I think that's true of most artists who aren't, you know, doing one media, I'm guessing.
So Maxine, you mentioned that Diebenkorn was a great inspiration to you.
Yes.
As painters, who are your inspirations?
Well, Anselm Kiefer is another. Those, and some that probably their names aren't well known, but just very painterly painters who look like they're also just having a wonderful time pushing their oil paint around. And I know you mentioned tools, and the show at Art House is called Brushstrokes. And it's very aptly named because in order to keep from getting too detailed, I use big fat brushes, but also I'm using a lot of kitchen spatulas. And actually my latest new tool is cardboard, corrugated cardboard, and it's wonderful. Everybody should peel some back and use it. It's fun.
We
Great.
have a question from a 7-year-old, Juliet. She wants to know from Anna or anyone who would like to answer, what is your favorite fruit to paint besides pomegranates?
Well, definitely pomegranates. I haven't painted a lot of other fruit, but I would be interested in maybe exploring figs. I think that would be fun to do. I think those plum colors are very, very attractive to me. So, yeah.
I've always been a fan of apples, just because there's so many different kinds and they are always so colorful and has an interesting kind of almost like a tube torus shape.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask a final question of everyone, if you can feel like answering, which is, why Art for AIDS? Why this organization? There's so many worthy causes, and so, I know as an artist I get asked all the time to donate. So why this organization? Why this auction?
For me, I mean, of course, my motivations are multiple. I have the privilege of working at Alliance Health Project, and I can see every day, the clinical excellence and the dedication of the staff in really transforming lives. So, the power of the work is clear to me. I am not a clinician, obviously. I'm in fiscal, but I really can see the value in what they're doing. And so there's that. And then of course, just the sheer power and vision of Art for AIDS. It's just a wonderful, I mean, I thought it was incredible that it pivoted entirely from an in-person event to virtual, just amazing how this happened. And it's kind of part of the innovation of the agency itself. And it just makes me proud to work there, and it makes me proud to donate, as much as I can. I think it's amazing.
You're like a
And
plant.
Huh?
You're like a plant.
No, but I have to agree with everything she said.
Yeah, for me, it's DK, you're a big part of that. You're just an amazing individual and inspired me on so many levels. But I also like the fact that it's a cause which still has stigma, unfortunately. It's like discrimination of any kind, which is baseless. And I feel that it's something I want to support and put an end to. So, yeah.
I'll chime in, DK. Alliance Health Project has helped people I know and love make it through some pretty rough and challenging points in their lives. So I can't say enough about that. What you people do is really important and it really matters. So keep doing it.
There's a lot of staff on the call, so they probably really like hearing that as well. Yeah.
Mark was talking earlier about positivity and trying to focus on doing things that can help as opposed to things that divide. So any little part I can do through my art is a joy. And yeah, also DK, it's partly because of you, meeting you, and you're such a great leader. And yeah, it's a pleasure to help you.
Thank you.
And who could say no to her?
I know.
Exactly.
Wish Tony can.
Okay, too loud.
What does she know?
I know, really.
And I did want to say, DK, I mean, you've really been so flexible and really tried to make this work. And I admire you for that, because all of a sudden, there was no physical space. How do we get this all set up? And I think you've done an amazing job.
Thank you. I've had a lot of help.
And talk about battling fear, especially in this time. There was so much uncertainty about where Art Parades was going to go this year. And look what's happened. It's Art Parades like we've never seen it before. So thank you for that.
Well, in some ways, isn't this the silver lining? Like, we could never
Yes, totally.
artists talk. And I mean, I am so inspired by each and every one of you and your journeys and your work and, your dedication to your craft. And, Holly, you just blow my mind. Holly keeps our organization running, and she is so talented on this side of her brain and so talented on this side of her brain. It's really impressive. So yeah, so it's really it's Art Parades would not happen if artists did not donate their art. So no matter how innovative I am or the people behind next door and in front of me are, it's really because of you. So I just want to say thank you all. Thank all the panelists and of course all the participants for joining us and for being a part of our organization and our party that we're going to have Saturday night. I'm really excited. Remember that bidding for the live pieces is going to open on Friday. So we can start having some competition, and all the sections are going to close at 10 p.m. on Saturday night. So if you're a stealth bidder, make sure you set your alarm for 9:50 so you can get your final bids in. And it looks like all the artists, I mean, obviously, Mark, your piece does not have any bids on it because it isn't open yet. But everyone else has bids, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen. And thank you all so much. I really appreciate your participation, your dedication, and your donations. And thank you.
Thank you for making it possible for us to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing this.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
The nuances in my work is in relationship of form and color.
It's about San Francisco and change and the layers that are in all the buildings that give us the narratives of the city.
I always seem to find myself in coming of age series. It's about being between two states and that moment where you're sort of neither here nor there.
I love to kind of bring in that it's sort of spontaneity at the same time as deliberate. But there's just something so life-affirming about it. So that's really why I do it.